They say many are called, but few are chosen. But what does that really mean? I used to ask myself that every night. Not in a poetic way, not as some vague spiritual curiosity. I was desperate to understand why everything around me felt unreal, like I was part of the world, but never of it. My name is Elijah Graves. I wasn't born with a glowing sign above my head or some prophetic birth. I was raised in a regular home in southern Indiana. Middle class, modest, church on Sundays. Everything seemed fine until I turned 13. That's when the dreams started. At first, they were just fragments. Lights in the sky, voices whispering names I didn't know, numbers, colors that don't exist in our spectrum. I told my parents. They thought I was reading too much. Maybe it was stress. Puberty, they said. But something inside me knew. This wasn't imagination, it was a calling. But here's what no one tells you about being chosen. It's lonely. It's painful. And at times, it feels more like a curse than a gift. You see, the first sign, the very first gift that only the chosen receive is the gift of inner disturbance. It's not peace, it's a holy unrest, a spiritual irritation with the mundane. You're not content with the 9 to 5. You're not satisfied with Netflix, gossip, and weekend barbecues. You crave meaning, deep, soul-splitting meaning, even if it haunts you. If you've felt this before, if you've ever sat in a crowded room and thought, why does none of this feel real? Maybe you're not like the others. And if that resonates with you, let me ask, have you subscribed to this channel yet? Because what we talk about here, it's not for everyone. It's for those who know there's more. Go ahead and subscribe. You're going to want to stay with me for what comes next. Now, where was I? Ah, yes, the disturbance. It wasn't until I turned 18 that I met someone else like me. Her name was Maria, a quiet girl from Honduras working at a coffee shop in the city. She looked at me once and said, "You have that look, the ache behind your eyes. You've seen things, haven't you?" I froze. How could she know? That's when I learned about the second gift, recognition. The chosen can see each other, not with eyes, but with spirit. There's an invisible current that flows between us, even if we've never met. And it's not always friendly, because with this gift comes a burden, spiritual warfare. It's real. And it's not just demons with horns and smoke. No, it's doubt, depression, temptation. The enemy comes dressed like your comfort, your entertainment, your pleasure, but he always aims at your purpose. The third gift is unexplainable protection. Not everyone survives what we've been through, but we do, just barely, miraculously. Think about it, that car that should have crushed you, that disease that disappeared, that moment you should have taken your life, but something held you back. Coincidence? I don't believe in that anymore. So here's the truth, brutal and raw. The chosen ones suffer more, we feel more, we lose more, because we are being refined, like silver in the fire. You may wonder, why me? But a better question is, why now? And I'll answer that. But first, do me a favor. If this video already stirs something in your spirit, something ancient, something restless, leave a comment below. Tell me where you're watching from, because trust me, you are not alone. There are more of us than you think. And the signs, they go deeper, much deeper. Let's go there together. Stay with me. Remember when I asked, why now? Here's the answer, and I want you to listen carefully. Because if you've received the first 3 gifts, the holy disturbance, the spirit of recognition, the unexplainable protection, then what comes next is the real test and the real awakening. The 4th gift is called the echo. It's when you hear or see the same message over and over again, but from completely different sources. Let me give you an example. When I was 19, I was going through what I call my collapse year. Everything I had planned fell apart. I lost my job, my girlfriend left, and my father died, all in the span of 4 months. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. I just drifted. And then out of nowhere, I began hearing the word awaken. It started with a graffiti tag under a highway bridge. Just that word, awaken. Then a stranger on the bus was humming a melody, repeating the same word under his breath. That night, I opened a Bible randomly. My eyes landed on Romans 13:11. It is high time to awaken out of sleep. I dropped the book, literally fell to my knees. What was happening? I later learned this is a known sign among prophets, mystics, and even those trained in discernment. The Spirit echoes a word or phrase to call your attention. And if you ignore it, the message only grows louder and the consequences sharper. Look back at your life. Have you been hearing the same idea in your dreams, songs, conversations, even advertisements? That's not random. That's the fourth gift in motion, the divine echo. And it usually points to the fifth gift, the revelation of hidden things. This is when you start to see behind the veil. You don't just hear what people say, you feel what they're hiding. You walk into a room and immediately sense the tension no one speaks of. You start to understand things you've never studied. Ancient truths start blooming inside your spirit like memories, except they never came from your mind. The chosen often say, I don't know how I know, I just know. Friend, that's not madness, that's revelation. Let me tell you what happened to Maria, the girl I mentioned earlier. We lost contact for years after she moved back to Honduras. But in 2022, I got a message from her. She had been hiking in the Sierra de Agalta Mountains when she stumbled upon an abandoned chapel. Inside, there was a mural, a crude painting of 7 figures, each holding a different symbol: a flame, a sword, a scroll, an eye, a scale, a dove, and a sealed book. She sent me the photo and asked, "Have you seen this before?" I hadn't, but I knew it meant something. That night, I dreamed of each symbol, and when I woke, I wrote down what they represented. They aligned perfectly with the 7 spiritual gifts found in Romans 12 and Isaiah 11: wisdom, understanding, counsel, might, godliness, the fear of the Lord. The ancient prophets weren't giving metaphors, they were documenting real gifts, meant to be activated only in the lives of those God sets apart. And this leads us to the 6th gift, the isolation before activation. Nobody likes this part, but it's inevitable. Before David became king, he was isolated in caves. Before Jesus began his ministry, he was led into the wilderness. Before Moses could lead a people, he spent 40 years alone as a shepherd. Friend, if you're feeling alone, misunderstood, ghosted by friends, pushed out of circles, even ignored by family, don't panic. You're not being abandoned. You're being set apart. God does his deepest work in seasons of silence. That's why your phone has stopped ringing. That's why no one sees your potential yet. That's why the room you're in feels smaller and colder lately, because you're being processed, refined, stripped, prepared. And the most painful truth, not everyone will go with you. There are people who were meant only for the first chapter of your life, not the next. That hurts, I know, but hear me clearly. You will not walk into your purpose dragging corpses behind you. Some doors must close. Some friends must go. Some silence must happen before you can walk in the final gift. But before I tell you what that is, pause. Ask yourself, have you experienced any of these signs? Comment below. Tell me, which one shook you the most? Because the final gift, it changes everything. I'll tell you about it in part 3. And when I do, it might break you, but it will also rebuild you. You're not crazy. You're not cursed. You're called. And the signs are only beginning. Let me take you back to the question we started with. Why now? Why are you seeing these signs now, not 10 years ago, not when you were younger, but in this moment? Because the 7th gift only arrives when you've walked through the fire of the first 6. And when it comes, it won't feel like a gift at all. It'll feel like loss, like breaking, like something inside you is being torn away. But don't panic. This is the final proof you've been chosen. The 7th gift is called the dying of the false self and the birth of divine purpose. You see, before the Creator releases you into what you were made for, he has to strip away everything you were not. And that includes the you that you built, the ambitious one, the bitter one, the one who needed validation, applause, revenge, control, the one who always tried to fix everything for everyone while silently dying inside. That version of you has to die because the true you, the one heaven designed, cannot coexist with the mask. And the moment that old self begins to unravel, you'll feel like you're losing everything. But listen carefully. You're not losing yourself. You're returning to yourself. The real you. The one God had in mind before the world handed you all its false definitions. Let me tell you a truth no one told me when I was younger. You can live a good life, even a godly life, and still miss your assignment if you never walk through the fire of identity death. That's why the world is full of people who are busy, religious, high-achieving, but still empty, still angry, still lost, because they never surrendered the false self. They never let the seventh gift do its work. But the ones who do, the ones who walk through the darkness, not avoiding it, not numbing it, but embracing it, they emerge unrecognizable. Not because they became someone new, but because they became who they've always been. And here's the miracle. Once you receive this final gift, everything that used to chase you, now you start chasing it, but for different reasons. Before, you chased money to feel worthy. Now, provision comes as a tool, not a master. Before, you chased love to feel whole. Now you become love because you know who holds your soul. Before, you feared being alone. Now you embrace solitude because you hear God best in the silence. And here's the ultimate shift. Before, your life was about survival. Now your life becomes a weapon, a signal, a testimony. You walk into rooms and atmospheres change. You speak and hearts soften. You live and people ask, who are you? Why do I feel peace when you're near? That's the mark of the called. That's the seventh gift working through you. But don't mistake this for fame. This isn't about stages, followers, or status. Some of the most powerful chosen ones will never be known by name. There'll be grandmothers who pray in closets, fathers who fight for their children silently, artists, teachers, strangers carrying light in the darkest corners of the world. Their reward isn't applause, it's alignment. Friend, if your life feels like it's being torn apart, if you feel like you're dying inside, you might not be broken. You might be birthing. Because this is what happens when the old you dies and the chosen you rises. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like you don't belong here? Like Earth has never quite felt like home? Like you were sent for a reason but can't quite put your finger on what it is? It's because you were sent. And what you're feeling is not confusion, it's contraction. Something inside is trying to be born, not for your glory, but for something eternal. You weren't just made to live a good life. You were made to wage war in the spirit, to shift timelines, to break curses, to heal bloodlines, to interrupt generational patterns with your very existence. You weren't just sent to earth, you were assigned, chosen, marked. And everything that's happened up to this point, every trauma, every setback, every delay, every night you didn't think you'd survive, was shaping you so that when the moment came, you would recognize it. This is that moment. So now, what will you do? You know too much to go back. You've seen too clearly to pretend you're blind. You've been marked too deeply to ever fit in again, because chosen ones never fit in. We disrupt, we awaken, we rebuild. And now that you know, you're responsible. But don't be afraid, because the one who called you, he doesn't abandon what he awakens. So go, step into your season, walk in your authority, speak with power, love with fire, stand with heaven. You carry the seven gifts. You were never meant to be normal. You were born for this.